suffocates, whisper in the hall, where justice wears a mask and truth begins to fall. Every thread they pull, every lie they weave, in the courtroom's dance, who's left to believe? Oh, the devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end. The devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end in sight. A photograph fades where the truth once stood, blurred lines between the bad and the good. The scales they tilt with every silver tongue, while the broken cry for a song unsung. Black robes sway like shadows on the wall, one wrong word and the mighty fall. Who's a sinner? Who's a saint? The jury's out, but the verdict's faint. Oh, the devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end. The devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end in sight.
All right, everybody, welcome to another Crimes After Dark. Thank you for joining us once again. We are going to get started very quickly. There's lots of stuff on my mind. A new document in Idaho 4 that dropped. I haven't had time to read it all. I did start diving into it. I've already got some new thoughts, by the way, because in addition to the new document that dropped, I saw things that corroborate inside kind of information that I'm getting from other sources that are now starting to connect dots in the Idaho 4 case that I was reluctant to make before, but now it's all coming together. We got crazy shit to talk about. Some of the people on our panel may have actually read through more of that document, so I'd like to get their thoughts. We're going to get into that very quickly. Phoenix did some talk about a knife, the rainbow knife. I'd like to hear people if they've heard about that, and let's talk about that. There's Rex Heuermann, and the Rex Heuermann case pled guilty to 8 counts of murder, one of which apparently they're not going to charge him with. So he admitted to doing it, but they're not charging with the additional charge, it sounds like. And no, there was no speech from Rex Heuermann yet. At the sentencings, Rex Heuermann is expected to say something. However, it has been said that he will not give details of the murders. He will not confess to that part, or not. Well, he's confessing essentially with the plea deal, but he's not going to give details. What he may do, what he's expected to do, from what I understand, is he's going to give some kind of remorse statement of sorry that he put his family through this, maybe sorry he put the victims through this, something to that effect, but there won't be details about the crimes. That's my understanding about the Rex Heuermann Long Island serial killer case coming to a close now, and so much more going on. All right, let's bring the panel up really quickly on stage. We've got Dago. Dago, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Good to be here. Right. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, what's this? You got a nice little neon sign behind you and everything. Live on air.
I'm just trying to spice up my corner, I guess, make it look a little more appealing. That's all.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's good to see you again tonight. I'm glad that it's the night that you're with us. And so we don't have JJ tonight, but we do have the rest. We got one. So we've got Robin. We've got a lot of things working for us. Let's bring everybody on stage and get talking about all the crazy stuff that's going on. Robin, how you doing today?
I'm doing quite well. How about you, gentlemen?
Well,
doing good.
I mean, it's good to be alive.
Okay.
Yeah. Can't you feel the enthusiasm coming through the microphone?
Yeah.
Where's the crime kitty at?
Well, he was just here. I don't know where now he's roaming around the floor. I don't know. He'll be back later, most likely. So,
fair enough.
But yeah, but
I know we were excited to
Yeah.
try to debut our new sizzle reel that we spiced up a little bit.
Oh, I'm
You've been
so
spicing
close.
up, but you were so close. I mean, you're
So close.
easily 3/4, if not like 80%
Yeah.
done with the thing, and so it
Yeah.
looks fantastic. I can't wait to that we can roll that out and show people. There's the crime kitty. Look at the
There's
crime
Crime
kitty.
Kitty.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Shaking that ass on camera. Love it.
Yeah,
Love
there you go. Work your money maker, dude.
it. Work that money maker. Anyways, anything new on your life that you want to share before we get started tonight?
Nope. Nope.
All right.
Just working on that sizzle. So sizzle,
Let's
sizzle.
get one up here. One. How you doing? How's the new duties and your new job? And are you getting settled into your new life and all those good things?
I'm still getting used to people afraid of me walking around. It's like I'm not used to it. I'm not used.
So you get promoted and now people are treating you differently, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you like it or not like it? Or is it
well,
like,
so when you get promoted to lieutenant, we call it the white shirt mafia. You go, we wear white shirts
instead of blue uniform or
right. And then captains, it's there's some differences but it's basically the same. But I don't know, it's vastly different the way people treat you when just like going. So like one of my jobs is to I have to inspect some of the other precincts and go around and I just like when you come in, like everyone's like on eggshells and I'm just like in the back of my mind, I'm like, God, these people really are afraid. I mean, it's and I'm like in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm like thinking about Idaho 4 and Rex and cigars and I don't really, I'm like not even really. Yeah,
I recommend you walk with cockswagger and make them think you're everything they should be afraid of. Yeah, that's right, bitches. Be afraid.
Oh God, it's funny.
You earned it. Really is. You earned it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know,
well,
but I don't change. I'm not going to change who I am. I didn't take the position because I have power. That's not.
Yeah.
I actually, besides the money and yes, it's better for your family and everything in the future, pensions and all that stuff. I actually, so in that like same frame of light, like basically looking at a cup half full or half empty.
Yeah.
Some people, yes, they do get promoted and maybe they had bad supervisors or whatever. Maybe they were treated poorly and now they're like, haha, now I can be that guy. Now I can do that. But I've never been like that. I'm kind of the opposite end of that. I look at it that yes, now I have more power, more control at what goes on. I'm able to help people more. I can help my work.
Yeah.
That's how I am. And I'm not going to change. It doesn't matter how high I go or what rank. That's always how I'm going to be. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's easy to let that kind of stuff go to your head. So yeah. Well, I'm glad that you are starting out on the humble path. I believe you'll stay there.
Absolutely.
I've met you. I've known you long enough to know that you seem to be a man of integrity, and so
I am.
Sure
remember,
yeah.
I have your DNA.
You have your DNA. So I must say that because if I don't, I'm going to end up in a crime in New York somewhere.
Yeah. And not only do I have your DNA, I have your DNA on firearms.
God damn it! I know you keep reminding me. Like I hope all of those are registered firearms. But anyway, yeah, because I touched a few. I'll tell you that much. But anyway, so good to see you. Let's get your monologue going for the night. Get the family off the bed and those good things.
Right. Juliana, Jackson, my beautiful wife. Love you guys always. Is it good to be alive in the den on a Wednesday night? Here we go.
Yeah.
It's late, the kind of late where everything feels quieter than it should. And cases like this, they don't get louder in the dark. They get clearer. Because when the noise dies, all that's left are things that don't make sense. Two girls, Abigail Williams Liberty German, a bridge, a meeting that may have been planned long before they ever stepped onto that trail. Not random, not chance. A message, a profile, a lie, with a name, Anthony Schatz, a face that didn't exist, a voice that might not have belonged to just one person. 2 devices, same login, minutes apart. 2 sets of hands inside the same mask. And one of them was talking to Libby right before she died, setting a meeting. They show up, and within hours, they're gone. If the meeting was real, then someone was supposed to be there. And if that's true, then someone knows exactly what happened on that bridge. But the story changes. Keegan Klein, Ron Logan, Richard Allen. Names come in, names fall out. Truth doesn't evolve, it gets buried. Who else was there? Who was behind the screen? Who was holding the second phone? And who walked onto that bridge? This is Devil's Advocates. And tonight, we step into Delphi, where the truth might not be missing, it might be divided. And with that, live from New York, it's Wednesday night.
All right. Well, shit, if I can get my controls back, I'll put us all on screen together, but I was tapped away. I can't find my shit. All right, good. Robin is at control. Thank goodness. Whew. That was hard. Thank you so much for the monologue. I'm glad to be here for another one. Every time that we can do this, I feel like it's another win on our side. So how much did you get through the new Idaho 4 document that you dropped? Yeah, I know you sent it to me and I got through a little bit. I noticed the first, what was it, 116 pages, something like that?
It's 116 pages. I only did a little bit.
Yeah, the whole bunch of it was just kind of procedures on how to process a crime scene, which in itself was interesting because they listed some things about how to process, for example, suspects who may have contaminated the scene. And I don't know that they handled Hunter Johnson correctly at the scene. I also had some thoughts early on the fact that they were tracking Maddie and Xana's phone, specifically those 2 individuals. I wanted to talk about that a little bit. But what else did you catch? Did you catch any other crazy shit in that? Or?
Well, the big thing, that little paragraph that I had sent you guys that I know a few people are making a big deal about, and it is a big deal because how can they be tracking? Yeah, so their answer in there is that, okay, most of these people, and I don't know about every single person, but many of them had AT&T. Okay, so their answer is that timing advance records were not available until May of 2023. But they said we have a prior document that said they got 3,800 timing advance records. And they also, in the same, basically the same paragraph, they're talking about Maddie and Xana. So you had Maddie and Xana's timing advance records. What is so goddamn special about Kohlberg? Right. What is he, fucking Superman?
They're lying. They're lying.
No, that's my point. That's my point.
Absolutely.
It's like
they had it all, and
you should might as well just say we don't want to give it to you.
None of that pertains to anything because the FBI can go in at any given point in time and day or night, 3 a.m, walk out of the bathroom after taking a shit and say, "Give me the records." They get them. They don't need any special dates, times, anything. So they're lying.
I'm so tired of them. Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm so tired of them saying in these documents, "Oh yeah, we got 5,000 timing advance records, but we weren't able to get Kohlbergers. Nah, sorry, it just didn't happen."
And I don't remember the details, but Cy Ray's argument was essentially, "You're a liar. I know you got those records because I think he said he had emails proving they had asked for them and obtained them. So he knows they have it."
Boyd Jackson is the guy that handed things off. He spoke to him and ended the story. And he was on Zoom, not Zoom, whatever the hell it's called. Zoom. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't care. And all he had to do was let him speak. And he had told his story, but he knew that he was going to call the prosecution out, prove that he had it, and it would have destroyed the whole case. And that would have been the end of it.
Right. He protected them from day one.
That's exactly what it was all about right there.
Yeah. So,
The
and I
more
find it interesting too that they wouldn't give you their procedures when public requested them, but
Right.
they put them in documents and they didn't even follow the procedures from what you're saying. I have not read the document, so I'm just going, you said a lot of it was procedure and
It's not
things
like a
like
yeah,
that.
in
handbook.
the,
The
So
the
beginning
I
front,
part
the
of
find
it,
front
that
yeah.
part was just
interesting.
procedures. Yeah.
And they didn't even
Yeah.
do that right. They started off at a specific
Yeah.
page somewhere in the middle. There's no title to it. It's basically a criminal handbook, how to do this, that, and everything. And then they finally get to Turby and Sutton and all her bullshit
And
too.
then this part, I'll read this little part. This is like a big thing too, which I also sent you guys. So it says the defense claim the FBI is mapping only portions of the records received. FBI CAS conducts analysis of records and cases based on the facts associated with each investigation. Specifically, this means analyzing records for reasons such as determining the general location of a phone on specific dates and times of interest, whether a phone was in the vicinity of a specific location or whether multiple devices were generally in the same location. The analysis and reports generated in this case are specifically for the incident that occurred on November 13th, 2022, generating a report of all of the defendant's movements from June 2022 to December 22 would be overly broad, unnecessary, and prolong the jury service with details and not relevant to the prosecution. This is a whole bunch of horseshit. Basically,
Yeah.
all that nonsense saying, oh, BK went back to the crime scene, whatever, 13 times, 20 times, 80. This is bullshit. This is nonsense.
The hell they did.
Right.
Oh my
And
God.
I honestly, the more that I'm digging into, I've been digging into some behind the scenes records that I haven't looked into as much. I'm starting to, I'll tell you where I'm starting to look. I'm starting to look into areas that I've always held as Pavarotti's view, his purview. Like I've like,
Right.
look, Pavarotti's been on this from the very beginning, but I'm starting to relook into the drug angle, because as we get into the fentanyl and the questions that were going along with the Sigma Chi brothers and Ethan and the drugs, and where would you source Adderall and where would you source this, I started to redig into the stories that were going around in the early days about the Fetty brothers and about whether or not certain family members in the house had actually turned on the Fetty brothers. And again, the Fetty brothers, it was funny because I just recently understood an error of my own. Like I thought, for example, that in the early days that the Fetty brothers was the name of like somebody's last name. Fetty as in fentanyl brothers, right? And I didn't even make that connection. I thought it was like a couple of brothers. The two guys that they did put away, from what I understand, were unrelated to each other, but they had created essentially an organization to push fentanyl, large quantities of fentanyls from the Sinaloa, I think, cartel out of Mexico, up through the border, as we were talking about before. And I said, look, if there's a multi-jurisdictional task force in the area, and there was, without a question, and if they were looking into the to the fentanyl epidemic in America, and they absolutely were, and if members of that house's family members turned state's evidence or as a confidential informant on the drugs, it would make perfect sense. Several things: why the house was hit, and why the government would feel that it's justified to lie about everything in this fucking case and make it look like something that's not, because they don't want to divulge the reality of what happened, which is maybe their involvement in getting those kids killed. Like, could the federal government themselves, in their pursuit to shut down a large fentanyl organization, could they have gotten those kids killed? And would they do everything in their power to just push that off so that they didn't look guilty, and they don't give a shit how much lies have to be told to cover up their culpability? I'm beginning to ask those questions and dig in deeper to see if I can find the receipts on that.
Yeah, and they of course would not want any bad publicity. So,
Right.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder how much legally they're allowed to lie. If it's something of, like, again, you throw the national security moniker on things. Well, this is national security. Drugs coming into our country and being pushed on people and killing Americans, that's a matter of national security. So therefore, we can lie to every fucker in this country and just say it's a matter of national security. Sorry. We can put anybody in jail that doesn't belong there because matter of national security. Sorry. We'll do anything we can to protect our country. So is that what's happening here? Could that be possible?
Sure.
I think it's highly probable.
Yeah. It's definitely bullshit, though. It's absolute.
Philosophically, how do you guys feel about this? Let me ask you a philosophical question. Not try to step away a little bit from Idaho, but keep that in your mind as well. How do you feel about the idea that some people in our country may have to do uncomfortable things and kill or frame an innocent person for the greater good of protecting the country? Like, can you see scenarios in which it's okay to frame an innocent person or to kill an innocent person if the greater good is protecting the entire country and perhaps thousands or millions of lives that are saved by one person being innocently framed for something they didn't do?
Well, I would like proof of exactly how many people it's saving, because it seems to me that all these drug task forces are not cleaning up the streets because it's rampant. It's everywhere. So, and I realize it's kind of like trying to, fight a breaking dam with a Band-Aid. I get that. But on the other hand, what exactly, because it takes so long to bring one of these organizations down, and then until you do, another one crops up.
Yeah.
Well, how much security is that really?
And I feel it's a slippery slope. So
Yes.
you're basically like what you're saying. Yeah, if it's for the greater good, if one life dies and saves, 100,000, 1,000,000. The problem though is that who is deciding, who has the power to decide, and and then once that is allowed, who makes the rules on what is okay and what's not okay, and then people start to making their own. Oh well, I interpret the rule to be this. So yeah, this is okay.
Let me take you back to. I want to get your thoughts on this. I'm going to go a little crazy conspiracy theory on you tonight. Back in 2012, there was 3 mass shootings. There was one at the Sikh Wisconsin temple that wasn't so popular. There was Sandy Hook Elementary School, Adam Lanza that shot up the elementary school, remember? And then there was and this is not in the order that they happened. There was the Sikh temple was first, the Aurora, Colorado Batman shooting with James Egan Holmes, and it all happened in the same year. And after that effect, massive legislation was being talked about being pushed to ban assault rifles in the United States. And you have to ask yourself, would any sociopathic black op person say, look, we could actually stage a mass shooting so 70 people get killed. In the long run, if we can ban all assault rifles in America, think of how many lives will be saved. So if we can kill a few people, and you think it's horrific, sure, I don't want it to be my kid, but if you can kill a few 50, 60 people in a mass shooting, but the end result is you can ban all weapons in America and get people's guns taken away and therefore save potentially millions of lives in the future, would some sociopath say that's good math? That we could stage an event, let people innocent die because the greater good will be we'll take guns off the streets.
My argument against that. I mean, yes, it's a little tough for me because I'm in law enforcement. Chicago has one of the strictest gun laws in the entire country, yet they have the most murders.
Right.
One of the most murders, and gun violence is rampant. So it doesn't correlate. Just removing people's guns. And I can't stress this enough. Making more stringent gun laws and going that way, all you are doing is making it harder for the good citizen, the person that has the right to protect their family.
Yeah.
To protect their family. And are there other things that can be possibly changed in society? And this is where, some people don't, everyone's, where I am in New York, everyone's always in a rush. They're always in a rush. Like God forbid you have to wait online for an extra 5 seconds to get groceries or whatever. Everyone's in a rush, honking, going crazy. But how would you feel if I told you they made it mandatory in order to go into any, not just in a high crime area, to go into any movie theater, to go to any mall, you have to go through some kind of metal detector or whatever.
Right.
Now, yes, it's infringing. It's infringing on your freedom, and it's it may take a little bit longer, or maybe you have to show up. You have to go. You have to go to something a little sooner because now you have to wait online to go into this thing. But wouldn't you have peace of mind knowing then? Because you bring up the Batman movie. If you knew, okay, no matter what, my kids are, whether even if it's you or your kids or whatever, they're teenagers or whatever it is, and they're going to the movie, you don't have to worry about, someone's going to bring a gun and go crazy, because you know that the safety is there. You have that safety. No one can get in because there's a metal detector that will stop it. So you wouldn't have,
just like the courthouses.
Right. So, and I know this is something that they deal, Israel deals with this, they have this stuff all over the place. So people are against it, but the answer is not to remove all firearms or
well, no. And
I don't want to, sorry, Robin, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I don't want to make it about guns. I mean, that wasn't the point. The point was, I was using that as an illustration. The point is is it plausible to believe that somebody who's a bit more on the sociopath side could make a decision to say, look, the ends justify the means. If we do something illegal, but the end result is a good outcome for us, we can pass new legislation that locks down things and makes people safer in the future. Can you ever see a scenario when somebody would allow wrongs to happen because the greater good, they'll do more good in the long run? So somebody has to take the fall. So some innocent person is going to go down for this, big deal. In the long run, it's going to make us a safer place, and everyone's going to have a better life because one person went down for something.
Sure.
It's been happening for years. It's already been going on for decades, in my opinion. We've been doing it.
Right.
We talked about this a couple of weeks back, or maybe a week ago, I think, of that would the FBI sacrifice 4 lives to ensure that a multi-million-dollar investigation that's been going on for 2-3 years doesn't get blown? Absolutely.
Yes.
I have no doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind.
Yeah. No
Thank
doubt.
you. And that's my point. You're right.
Do I believe that it's right? No, but it happens, guys. The military does it constantly. Constantly.
I'm not right. I'm not saying, I'm so glad you said this. I'm not saying it happened, but let me give you a hypothetical. If the feds have been working on a 5, 6, 7 year drug bust to go after cartels running fentanyl through the universities, and if something happened that would jeopardize that because something went wrong and 4 kids get killed, do you think that they're going to let 7 years or 10 years get flushed down the toilet because 4 fucking college kids got wiped out? They will cover that shit up all day long, every day, and twice on Sunday.
And they do
because
that,
they're not going to flush down fucking all that investigation.
And this stuff happens, and this stuff even happens between, I could tell you, even with NYPD, with the different units we have, this happens all the time, because stuff gets crossed. We have a homicide squad. We have a unit that investigates, mafia type stuff. We have a vice unit. We have all these different units, and sometimes stuff gets crossed. So exactly like what you're talking about here. You have homicide guys that, they want to crack open a certain case and whatnot, and by them doing that, maybe could jeopardize some case that Vice has been working on for 5 years. So this stuff happens all the time.
It happens all the time. It's been going on forever. I mean, it's a normal. Well, just within the military itself. Well, we did it already. Just recently, they went in, and that's how they look at it, I should say. When the Iran and all that, I'm not going political, folks. I'm just giving an example. When the Iran thing started, so on and so forth, we went in and bombed. And unfortunately, there were children's lives, a lot of children's lives that were lost in this. They move on to the next thing.
Collateral damage, right?
Exactly. That's what they call it. That's not what we meant to happen, but it happened. I'm sorry. Move on. They've been doing this forever.
I can't go. I can't agree with that.
I don't agree with it either, but you know, we have no control over that kind of stuff. None.
There are some people who are totally okay with that.
But and I guarantee you, Robin. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Robin.
No, that's okay.
I guarantee you, having worked with some of these people, I'll guarantee you, certain elements of the government like having sociopaths working for them because they're willing to do things without a conscience to say, look, somebody innocent, or maybe even thousands of innocent lives have to be lost so that we can go to war and take over a certain country and own that asset to save millions of lives in the future because look, there's a book. Again, I don't want to get super political, but there's a book called The Grand Chessboard. And it was written about basically think tanks that said the United States was losing its hold on being the world's last superpower. If we didn't invade the Middle East, we would lose our control. If we didn't control certain straits, like the Strait of Hormuz or something like that, if we didn't control all the global straits, we would lose our control as the world superpower. And so therefore, a think tank said, look, we need to have something like another Pearl Harbor type event where Americans get pissed off and give us a blank check to go invade the Middle East and take over. Because if we can take over all of the Middle East, then we control everything and we control our history, and generations will be better off because we're in control. And so
they're liars.
There's think tank people who think those kind of things. Look, a few thousand people have to die for the greater good to secure our.
It's not for safety. Nation. It's for resources, plain and simple. All they want is the oil from around the world, because they don't want to switch from fossil fuel to clean energy, because clean energy has its own problems. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, you look at the places they're going, and Iran and over in the Middle East, they have huge oil supplies.
Venezuela too.
Yeah, of course we're going to try to clear those areas.
Yeah.
By the way, I've been seeing in the chat people there's some animated discussion in the chat. If you let's throw the link out there. If you want to come up and give your thoughts about anything about that we're talking about, please join us. It's a good night to do so. We've got a relatively light panel, just the four of us going. So we would love to have some interaction and some banter. Even if you've been on the show before, come up and talk to us. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't mean to turn it political. I guess my point being is that if you can entertain the idea that, like we talked about in Idaho 4, if you can entertain the idea that if they know it didn't happen the way they did, are they going to let the murder of 4 children, four college students, ruin a multi-jurisdictional drug task force going after cartels shipping drugs through universities? Would they let that jeopardize that whole thing? Or would somebody say, I don't care if somebody has to go down that didn't do it, fuck that guy, we're protecting our investigation, we're not losing a decade of research on this thing and on this trail, so it's just going to have to be, he's just going to have to eat a dick? Like, would they do something like that?
They do it every day. Every day.
Yep.
I think so.
Now, if JJ was here, we know what he would say. And it is true. The only way you avoid throwing a guilty man in jail for this is if he was one of your guys to begin with.
Right. That would make it a lot easier if the guy that you're going to let go down for it is one of your own. Right. Especially if you could use him on the end. What exactly, remind me, you guys probably know better than me, remind me, what did Steve Gonzalez actually say that was something to the effect of, let him go ahead and be an asset for the feds or something?
That's exactly what he was saying. Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean? Why does he think that Hogan would be an asset for the feds?
He said that that's why they didn't give him the death penalty. That's what he was all flipping out about. They did it on purpose. They're going to use him in prison. They're going to use him with his background, so on and so forth. And that's, let him go ahead and be an asset to the government, basically, is what he said. And it's like, okay, so what do you, I mean, I can see that happening, but.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Did you have a point you want to make, Robin, first, real quick?
Yeah, well, it's going right into that. It's segueing nicely. Is essentially, he's in there And if he can get buddy with some of these folks in there that are in the cartels and have those kind of connections, and they like him, and he's smart, and he, so forth and so on, he may potentially be able to get information for the feds, potentially.
If he can avoid becoming a target in prison where they're going to kill him for killing. And look, it's a little different. People keep talking about killing children. They were in their 20s. He's not going in there as a child molester. And also there was no sexual element of the crime, which they made that clear over and over again. And by the way, oh my God, I digress. Why did Bill Thompson want to state so many times, I want to make it clear, there's no sexual element in this crime. If you listen, follow the logic, I'm going to go crazy for a minute. Follow the logic. If the feds were going to use Brian Kohberger in the federal system, the last thing you want is him being labeled a pedophile or a child molester or a killer of children, right? So maybe you would send the message, let me make this clear. There's no sexual element in this case whatsoever, because you wouldn't want him to look like that kind of guy, because that would put a target on his head. So, it makes you wonder. Looks like we got somebody. We got U.S. Claire. Remember we had UK Claire, and now we got U.S. Claire.
Yeah.
U.S. Claire on stage.
Real quick, I want to thank Classy and Sassy 75 for their donation tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Classy and Sassy. That's very, very a beautiful gesture on your part. Thank you so much. Let's get U.S. Claire up here on stage. U.S. Claire, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Good to hear from you again.
Thank you. You guys are talking about the Idaho 4 case, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I was just making sure because I was just listening to it, not really hearing what you guys were saying. But
we're all over the place right now. But Idaho 4 keeps dipping into this. So
yeah. So over the weekend, my childhood best friend was in town visiting family because she's from where I'm from, like Dago. I live in Ohio, so
yeah.
We met through swimming, and we both she brought something up that I totally forgot she told me. So a few years ago, back in 2023, the swim team at Boston College got accused by the freshman teams on both sides that there was hazing incidents. So over the last few days, it got me thinking, usually a lot of the athletes at big universities like U of I and all of that get kind of grandfathered into the frat parties without needing who do you know, so a lot of them do get go to the frat parties and all that. So I'm just I know that there was this rumor about Kaylee and the football coach at U of I.
Oh God!
I'm not really sure if I believe in that. I'm just that's a rumor. I'm just.
Did you? I got lots to say about the football coach thing, but go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
So I'm just I was just thinking over the last few days, maybe if the athletes are able to get kind of grandfathered into the frat parties, they kind of learn a lot about the hazing stuff that happens with the great the University of Iowa frats that kind of got caught with the hazing stuff with the pledges and all that. So I just wanted to hear what you guys thought about that, because I don't remember if you guys ever talked about it or if I've ever heard anybody talk about that. So I just wanted to bring that in.
Well, thank you so much. I could explode on you with data about those thoughts. I feel like if I do so, I'm going to take over. My panel won't get to talk. I got a million thoughts about police officers involved in the fraternities and what that means. I've got thoughts about Kaylee's involvement in the babysitting operation for football coaches and the operation that was being run for hooking up young, pretty college girls with football coaches. All kinds of thoughts. But let me give the panel a shot first, because if I start talking, it's over, folks. So what do you guys think about her comments and questions about football coaches and hazing and fraternity life and all that stuff?
Well, the coach, he was very suspect to me in a lot of ways. Maybe not necessarily involved, but he sure as hell moved out of the area in a hell of a hurry. And we know that I believe it was Philadelphia Eagles. They were looking at him. I mean, he went to work for them, and so I mean, he had a lot to gain by getting the hell out of Dodge. and not being associated with this in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, I agree with you, with Claire, that
if I recall, I think his phone was off as well.
Yes.
God damn it! One.
Why was it off?
Listen. They clearly the police were looking into why was your phone turned off during the critical window of the murders. Why is it that there's a spreadsheet listing you hooked up with college girls to babysit your kids, and why do you tell us that your phone is always on so your wife can get a hold of you at all times? Why after the football party do you go out and hang out at a hotel with people and your wife just expects you'll come home whenever the fuck you come home? Then you turn your phone off or your phone loses a signal, and that was all asked. Like, how the fuck did we just all ignore that? Like that wasn't a major lead. Am I losing my mind? And then Brent Kopacka. Hey, is Brent Kopacka a football coach? Why the fuck did she ask that question? They were looking into the football coach thing.
I would love to know that answer.
They were looking into it for sure. Sorry, US Claire. I just said UK. Sorry, US Claire. I just exploded. Good. I told you I was going to explode on the whole thing. Did you see me talk about the police officer? I think she was Bree, that was interviewing Jordan, one of the roommates of Brent Kopacka, and it just randomly said, "Tell me everything you know about Kopacka." And he's listing all these things, and then she, out of the blue, she goes, "Is he ever a football coach?" And I'm like, where the fuck did that question come from? Yeah. What?
And I can understand where like the person is coming from. It's like a very small area. I used to live in a very like small town where like everyone knew like everyone in their drama when I was in high school. So not as small as like Moscow and Pullman, but like small enough to where like I kind of understand like what it's like to live in that kind of environment. So I'm kind of like 50-50 with Brent Kopacka being a part of the whole like thing in Moscow. But I definitely like, I'm just like, it's such a weird coincidence, especially with Brian's dad bringing it up in Indiana. So it's just like, because of that, I'm just like, that's really weird.
I will say this. I don't want to turn this into a Kopacka discussion, but I will say this. An officer, and one may have been the one that sent me to the article recently. An officer was actually investigated because of the suspicion that Kopacka was involved in the Idaho 4 murders. And so it was I said that at the time. I said, look, it was on their mind. When that standoff happened in Pullman with Kopacka, it was on their mind that he was potentially involved with the Idaho 4 murders. And by the way, I've been getting information from sources that said, I'll just say this. I cannot verify this, but I've got information from sources that are coming into me that Brent Kopacka was there that night. Now, I don't know if I believe that. I really don't know. Like, there's a part of me that thinks Brent Kopacka got fucked and got killed when they certainly could have talked him down. But there's other people that are saying, look, there's evidence that I can kind of show. They said Kopacka was there, so we'll see. And I don't want to make it into Kopacka, but the question about the football thing and the hazing was
at the 1122 house the night of the murders. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I have heard that too.
Yeah. I never heard somebody directly put him there. I had somebody recently tell me some information that suggests that he was directly there that night, and it would make some sense. But
I've heard a few times that same thing. I've also heard more recently than not that there was a party going on that Saturday night, as always, and that he was at that party. Some things got out of whack and went crazy, and I've been told that story 3 or 4 times. I don't know that it's true. There's no way to verify it, but it is an interesting. It does lead to an interesting thought process for sure.
Yeah, I have to say I am rigid with anticipation. We got another guest backstage. So US Claire, you don't have to go if you want to hang out with us. We'll bring on Jody as well if you want to hang out with us. Okay, perfect. Stay. Let's get Jody on stage. Jody, are you there? You got your microphone muted, so make sure you unmute yourself.
I'm so glad I made someone rigid this morning.
How you doing? Did you change your username?
Sorry. What was that?
Did you change your username?
No. I just shortened it.
Okay. Oh yeah. I was like, I didn't recognize who Jody was going to be until I heard your voice. I'm like, I know this Jody.
How are you, dear?
Yeah, very well, thank you. How are you all?
Good.
I haven't seen you for ages.
Good.
Good to see you.
And you.
I want to make sure before we move on, Jody, because I know Jody, you're more into the Letcher County case, but U.S. Claire, I don't think we properly addressed your fraternity part of the question about hazing and stuff like that. What can you rephrase what your question is for the panel on the whole fraternity / hazing incident?
So with like the hazing incident, like I brought up like my childhood friends bringing up like the hazing incident with the Boston College swim team like a few years ago. It was 2023, so that kind of brought up that was like right after I first came up and on the live for the first time, but that kind of like made me think like what if like I know like a lot of the athletes kind of have like they don't like a lot of especially with like the bigger schools like U of I, like the athletes kind of like are like well known around campus, especially the football players. So
Yeah.
like especially
Mhm.
if like if they want to go like to a party at like one of like the like Sigma Chi or something like that, like they can go in and not be on like a list if needed because they're football players, you know, they're kind of like
Mhm.
the big
I
guns
want
on
to
campus.
I want to ask this question. I'm going to show I'm look, it takes a big man to admit my complete ignorance on college sports. Like, so I went to school at WSU, and what I recall, and correct me, guys, if you guys are anybody who here is college football sports kind of fan, but if I recall, WSU was in a much higher division college-wise than the Idaho Vandals. Like the Vandals weren't
Yes.
I mean, and
Yes.
we would play the Vandals
Absolutely.
once a year or something like that, but it was like they were not a big national thing. They weren't in the division to be in like the Pac-10, for example, and with that. So it
They're
seemed to
like
me
a
like
Division
yeah.
One school. I
Yeah.
think they were very low on the
Right.
rating.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And the only reason I bring that up is to say that doesn't mean that in a small campus, your football players aren't still the big shit on campus because they're football players.
Sure they
and it's
are.
the biggest thing. But it wasn't like they weren't like a big national contender. Like nobody looks at the Idaho Vandals as a national contender, whereas maybe sometimes you might consider the Cougs a national contender. But I don't know. But
Yeah,
And then
you're right on that.
and the other
yeah.
thing is
Okay.
too you have to keep in mind is that within if you're looking at the fraternities and the sororities and stuff like that, like football players and fraternities, they don't go together. They don't. The fraternities don't like having football players involved in their frat. For some reason, it's a thing. It's always been a thing. I
So
asked a buddy
your
of mine.
jocks aren't frat members necessarily,
No,
right?
I mean,
Yeah.
so like the other, different.
No.
They call it something else, intramural sports or whatever it is. Some of the fraternity guys will play those kinds of sports and stuff, but they don't put the jocks in with the fraternities. They just don't like it because I think there's a clash of like who's more important type thing, so on and so forth. And it's so that's one thing that you can rule out. You'll never see that within that at all. Football players being
Well,
involved. I had to learn that the hard
eh,
way. I didn't know. Go
another
ahead.
component to that is because the frats and everybody, they have to have certain level of grades, and
Yeah.
let's face it, not all football players are great students, and so that would also create disharmony within the house, as we know with Ethan. Okay,
Yeah.
Right.
his
Right.
grades were subpar. They were mad because in order to keep their their status.
Robin, you bring up a good question. I want to ask this question. And Jody, from the Defense Rest, hold tight. I know Idaho
good
is
luck.
not your big thing, but here's something I was wondering. Somebody asked, so Ethan, from what we know, Ethan Chapin was in Sigma Chi to start with, but his grades were horrendous. In fact, it sounds like he didn't go to a lot of classes and he was kind of fucking off his first couple of semesters. And he was working really hard to get back into the party. There was times in the interviews with Sigma Chi where Van Leuven was asking questions about a parent. A parent said, hey, there was a party and somebody showed up that was uninvited and had to be kicked out of the party. And somebody said, had Ethan tried to fool his parents into thinking he was still in the frat and didn't want them to know that he had been kind of kicked out and was on the outs with the frat and was living off campus and was trying to work his way back? And did he go to the frat party trying to give the impression to his parents he was still good and in with the frats when maybe he was still on the outs and trying to make his way in? Some people, and before I shut up and I'm going to let you guys talk, some people suggested that Ethan was a bit of an embarrassment to the frats, that his poor grades reflect poorly on the fraternity itself and lead to bad blood. And they're like, fuck that guy. Like he looks bad on the whole fraternity. So
not even just for that, because what you just said is what I've been wondering throughout the day. We watched the newest interview today, the newest Sigma Chi interview. I'm sorry. And this is the first time anybody talked anywhere even remotely negative about him. Okay.
Yes.
But every other interview we heard, they all said basically what you just said, Lee, was that Ethan kind of was a screw off. Okay. He didn't really go to school. Yeah. He slept all day and then he partied all night. He played video games. He was this, he was that. He wasn't worried about grades. That is an interesting thought that you just put out there. Were they possibly embarrassed? Because, Sigma Chi looks upon themselves as the absolute best out there. Every fraternity does. And that's an interesting thought, So, yeah, it could be. And he was still going to fraternity functions and doing all that, but he was not allowed to live in the house. And it makes you wonder. And I think that law enforcement was looking at him in a certain realm as well with things he might have been doing. I think it was clear. I mean,
Dago, I think you're nailing it, because I think it was clear Ethan was a party guy. He was really charismatic, but he drank like a fucking fish. He had, as they said during the interviews, Ethan had connections in every house. Everyone wanted him. He was highly sought after during Rush. Everybody wanted him in their fucking house because he was like the party guy. He was the popular guy. He was whatever. But his grades sucked. So did he get himself in a position where, again, he was known as the guy to go to for things? That, you know what I'm saying? Like, it starts to lead to.
I mean, without a doubt, I absolutely have been thinking lately. I did a show when I covered him the other day. It absolutely looks as though law enforcement was looking at him. He was even friends with the people that Detective Van Leuven is basically, in a sense, without even doing it, he's basically making them the bad guy here, saying that he believes that there's this and that going on with the Delts. We all know who the Delts are. Well, today we were looking into this, and some of Ethan's close friends are Delts. How does that work if you're in Sigma Chi? It makes you wonder. Now, the Sigma Chi guys could probably look at that on the outside and go, that's not okay. We don't like them. We don't want you associating with them. But if he did it anyway, it's one of them things. So
let's take a moment because we got Jody on from the Defense Rest, and she asked a great question. It would be great to talk to her about. So Jody, being from Australia, may not understand the Greek system, and even me, who has never been in the Greek system, may not understand it. But I'll tell you what the answer to your question. I don't understand how the whole fraternity thing works, but why would Ethan want to pretend to still be part of a fraternity for the sake of his family? Look, in America, fraternities are often a social status thing. It's like the up and comers kind of thing. If you're in a fraternity, you're in a brotherhood. You're expected to know how to keep secrets. You're connected to people who have money. You're connected to people who have money and prestige. Usually the frats will tap people to be in the fraternities who are of a certain social status, money, and whatever. And he had money. And so it's like the upper class in colleges. The fraternities are considered an upper class. They're the more elite, the money people who are going to someday be a governor of a state or a senator or whatever. That's the people who go to frats. They're the people who are going to be the upper class of society.
A social status symbol.
It's a status symbol. Right.
And another part to that,
his parents. Go ahead, Diego. Go ahead.
Another part to that is a lot of these kids' parents are alumni of these sororities,
right? And they're super proud of their kid. They're super proud of their kid is, you're going to be a great, fraternity guy and whatever. And then it's an embarrassment for them, for their family, to let them down and know that I didn't make it, but I can't be part of the upper class.
And then just to add in, to let you know, Jody, some of the detectives and cops and lawyers and stuff involved in this were also part of the.
A lot of law enforcement.
Most of them were.
Former
Okay. Yeah.
Bill Thompson.
Bill Thompson, right.
The guy that was given the
Taylor.
interview. Yeah, and Taylor, but yeah, the guy that was given the interview, which is a huge conflict of interest to me.
Yeah.
He's a Sigma Chi alum.
Yeah.
And he's giving the interview to these guys, which I don't think is a good idea. So
it's like all the popular kids.
It's right. It's not just the popular kids. It's the money families. It's the families that are expected to be.
Why does everything come back to the almighty? Everything always comes back to the dollar. It's
Well, yeah.
Of course.
Follow the money is the
what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is what it's all about, sadly. But yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to be, like you said, the popular kids. It's not even about that, but you become the popular kid when you become part of this group, and you, like we've seen, they can get away with whatever the hell they want, basically. In my opinion, this is my opinion, of course, that, I don't have any way to say this is why I think this or show you, but I feel like Sigma Chi runs the damn town. I do. Okay. There's reasons why I feel that way. It seems to be that fraternity in itself specifically seems to be the main fraternity.
And you have law enforcement. Van Leuven was a former Sigma Chi guy, and he talks about, in my opinion, they form brotherhoods for life. They form brotherhoods, and even though Van Leuven never went to school with any of the guys that he's interviewing, he automatically has a brotherhood with them. We're brothers. We went to the same fraternity, and even though they're a complete different generation, there's a bias on his part to be like, hey, I'm going to protect my brothers. I'm one of you.
1,000,000%.
And that's why he's interviewing them, because they're going to feel trust because he's a former brother. He's not going to fuck them. He's not going to try to look to, if he was from a different house, they might have a problem with that.
Right. So
sometimes they do take people into their fraternities or sororities who are not from money, but if you have super good grades and you can help the house average out their grades, they will take you, even if you're not like from money or you're not a legacy from one of the alums or something like that. But by and large, it is typically, but there are some people.
Do you have to be invited, or can you just apply?
Well, so Jody, great question. Look, a lot of like the really high end stuff, like at Harvard and Yale, the Skull and Bones Society, stuff like that. There's groups in that whole that are kind of tied to Greek society that you're handpicked it. In fact, I think the entire Greek system is based on basically, rush, which is where people try to get into a house, and they basically are making an application like, hey, I want to be in a fraternity, and so here are my credentials. Here's my family credentials. Here's what kind of person I am. Here's how much money our family has, and that's all weighed in when a house decides who's going to be in the Greek system that year, and whether or not you're going to be picked for their house. Wow. It all comes into your influence, who you know, what money you have, and what kind of person you are, if you're going to be a good fit for their house.
So
it sounds like Freemasonry preschool.
Basically, yes. It is. It is. And take that into account, what he just said, and realize that when you hear these interviews and they say everybody loved Ethan, everybody wanted Ethan during Rush, they basically were fighting over him in a sense. We want him over here. Well, we want him over here. There's good reason behind that. Ethan comes from money. He has money.
Ethan probably had his pick. He probably had his pick of what fraternity you want to go. They all wanted him.
Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I think, I can't give you 100% on this, but I think his dad was Sigma Chi alum too. That's 100%. I don't know exactly for sure if it was from Idaho, but I'm pretty sure that it was, and that he was absolutely in the same thing. So there again, when you have a legacy family member and you're joining, it makes it easier. So in turn,
but I don't even think you have to rush if you have a family member in.
Right.
You get in like Mike Sausage. In.
Right, like Sausage Biscuit says, when you apply for Rush, you're gonna give them your credentials, and you're gonna try to find people in the house that you want to go and say, "Hey, speak for me, vouch for me." It's its own secret society. Getting in with the right people and who you know.
And interestingly enough, his brother and him both, him and Hunter both, ended up in the same fraternity. That doesn't always happen that way. You know, siblings will bounce around to different places, different fraternities, different sororities, but those two. Evenly enough, ended up in the same fraternity, and Hunter kept his end of things up. You know what I'm saying? You know,
is there a hierarchy? Like, is there one that's more favorable than the other? Or
there is 100, especially like in different like schools. I have a lot of family who was in like who went to school in SEC schools. So it's like in like the southeastern area. So a lot of like, especially in the South, the Greek system is a big thing, and I think a lot of people find interest in the Greek life, whether it's frats or sororities, is because of the networking. So a lot of people who are in the Greek system and also outside of the Greek system are become very successful people. Like, you know, Ann Taylor was in the sorority system. So like, if somebody wants to be like a lawyer, like Ann Taylor, like they have that connection and networking and all of that. So
and
all that.
I want to add something too. Like in When the Night Comes Falling, Howard Bloom made a big deal about Maddie and Kaylee's relationship, and there was a disappointment because the girls wanted to get into the same sorority together, but Kaylee was picked by the bigger house. I think it was that, you know, being the more popular girl, she was picked for the bigger house, and that became kind of a disappointment for them because they couldn't go to the same sorority. Because you're right, there are houses that are favored, whether it's in the fraternities or the sororities, as the place you want to end up.
What's the difference? Yeah. What's the difference between a sorority and a fraternity?
Sorority for the females and for fraternities for the males.
Yeah. But they all have the same type of standards. Some are a little bit different, but they're basically the same type of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So yes, there's definitely a pecking order. Of course, every fraternity is going to think that doesn't apply to them, but yeah, there's definitely a pecking order where people who are rushing, they have their hopes to get into a specific house, the house that is the primo, if you will, place to be. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like for instance, if he filled out his paperwork to get in, well, him and his brother both, I'll say this, and they put down, quote unquote, if it's true, you know, their dad was legacy. For instance, for one, this is their family has this type of money going on. This is what their parents do for a living. This is what they own. They have a beach house or a summer house. They have a boat over here. This and that. They're involved say his dad was involved in the Freemasons or something. All of those things play into effect when he puts that down, and they look at that and go, okay, there's 3 gold stars right away. And then they go through Rush, and it's a lot easier for them to get in.
I want to talk about Plotty's comment here, because again, while I went there, I wasn't in the Greek system, so I don't know it real well. But I will say this: it may be true what they're saying. The frats themselves don't care about Greek, the grades, they say, but the national chapters do. Here's the thing:
right?
There's rules about. And I don't know all the rules, but there's rules about whether or not you're a house that's allowed to have alcohol or a house that's not allowed to have alcohol, whether you're allowed to be an off-campus housing or not on-campus housing, whatever. And those have to do with your grades. If you you have to maintain a certain level of GPA, for example, to continue to live in off-campus housing and a full alcohol fraternity kind of thing like that. And so all of those things matter. And those fraternities work with the university themselves that say, look, we're going to recognize your fraternity, but only under the following circumstances. Your members have to meet a certain GPA level, and they have to maintain certain things. And so this is why they were talking about when someone like Ethan comes in, is failing grades. They're like, look, your status as a fraternity may lose privileges if you have people in your fraternity who can't maintain a certain GPA level.
Right.
You may lose the right, for example, to have alcohol on campus or in your fraternity if your people are missing classes because they're drunk all the time. So that all kind of factors into what privileges your house has and stuff that are recognized by the university. And so a person who's a party person who isn't taking grades seriously potentially threatens the entire fraternity house because that they have to meet certain standards.
Right.
It's like a whole
yeah. Look at Amanda's statement right there, which tells you something else. Stacy, Ethan's mother, okay, she said it was a statement she made. Where'd it go? Good Lord. Joining Pi Beta Phi was a pivotal experience that helped me to develop confidence, resourcefulness, and a sense of self-identity before I fully understood myself. Again, so his mother was in a sorority. I'm pretty sure his dad was in a fraternity. Macy, I'd be interested to see if Maisie was in Pi Beta Phi, because that would fall right in line. So
she was.
Okay, well, there's your reasons right there, you guys. That shows it all.
Isn't Pi Phi the sister sorority to Sigma Chi?
So right. I was just going to ask. I'm trying to remember. Kaylee Gonzalez, I think, was an Alpha Phi, and that was the big one that Maddie wanted to get into. Maddie was upset because she didn't get into Alpha Phi.
Right.
Maddie, I think, got into Pi Beta Phi. And maybe my pronunciation's horrible because I'm not a frat guy. I am a frat guy, Lee. Well, shit, Ipati, fuck, damn it, man, get on stage with us and educate us about the Greek life, for fuck's sake. Like, it is time. It's time to join us on camera and talk about the Greek life.
Well, they can only tell us so much. You know that.
If anybody, Robin, put the link out there. If anybody has been a major part of the Greek life, sorority or fraternity, for God's sake, get on here and correct our asses on all this stuff that we're stumbling through on Greek life. Because
what about family life?
Yeah, I should put my wife on. My wife was in a sorority.
Well, there you go. Go in there, get her on camera, or tell her to put the thumbnail on and talk to us.
She's probably gonna. I'm probably be sleeping on the couch now that
Is she got camera shy? Is she camera shy? Yeah, I would love somebody who's been in the Greek system to help us a little bit. Like, again, keep in mind, everybody's got their own perspective. So just because you've been in a Greek system doesn't mean that you're the expert now, but we certainly could learn something from somebody who's been in Greek life. I guarantee people in our chat right now, there's people in here who have been in a fraternity or sorority. So for God's sake, join us on camera and talk about the Greek life. That'd be great.
Sasha said she was Kappa Alpha Theta, so
Ipati says it wasn't a great experience. It was mostly ritual. Yeah, we would love to hear about the rituals. I would love to hear about the rituals. I mean, we hear crazy shit about rituals and initiations to get into fraternities and sororities. And again, I think that's part of the process of developing that brotherhood and the sisterhood of, once you go through certain traumatic events, then you feel like you're bonded to your group because you've all gone through the shit. You've all gone through Hell Week, right? Hell Week is a common thing. We're going through Hell Week, where they put you through the ringer and they make you do some shit. Kawanda is going to join us on camera. Now, we've got a pretty full. Let's see what happens if we add this. Like, normally when you got 6 people on, well, that looks good. What do you got, Kawanda? Are you there?
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
We hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So I was in the sorority for all 4 years of my undergrad at the University of Miami. So I think I could provide some helpful insight.
Show us the way. Show us the way.
So I think the first thing that I would say is I was in a National Panhellenic Council sorority, which is one of the predominantly Black sororities, not Panhellenic, which is the predominantly white sororities. So there is a huge culture. There's a huge cultural difference between the predominantly white and the predominantly Black ones.
Yeah.
So stop right there for a second. So is this like some kind of weird racism that's still like throwback, that you've got a predominantly white and a predominantly Black sorority? Like, why do we have the racial division in the first place? Like, this seems like, I mean, I agree with you that it happens, but why are we still dealing with that shit? Like, I just
so it's just like legacy because of segregation and racism.
Sure. Right.
Black people weren't even allowed to go to college, so they went to HBCUs, and so all of the Black historically Black fraternities and sororities, they were all founded at HBCUs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So
So
the
continue
one,
on.
yeah, because so the one that I'm in was founded in 1908
Okay.
at Howard University.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
So yeah. So I just want that, and that's very, very important. Like I can't like stress enough how important like with the culture is between the historically black and historically white fraternities and sororities. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
And the second thing that I thought would be insightful is like a lot of what you guys are, even though I'm in a historically black one, I have friends in the historically white ones and I know all about them. And I went to the University of Miami where like there was a lot of Greek life. And so basically a lot of what you guys are saying is true. Like for the white ones, it's very much it's like a social thing. Like you wanna get into the right house so that you can be considered like in the cool sorority or fraternity, and then they would also have to be seen as having the best parties and like the most attractive and like whatever. Each sorority has kind of a stereotype of what they are. So like sorority A might be the really pretty girls, sorority B might be like the nerdy girls, sorority C might be the party girl. So it's very like there's a lot going on culturally, and of course it differs between schools. And so that's the second thing I want to say. And then also the historically white ones, like they join for the parties. They join for they don't really do a lot of community service, like any of that. Like I don't want to sound biased, but the historically black ones are focused on like community service and like scholarship. So we actually don't say like we say that we're in. Like I still consider myself to be part of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated because that's our culture. Whereas the white ones, as soon as you graduate, you're done. Like you're not part of it anymore. So for us, it's a lifelong membership type of thing. Yeah. And so the white ones, like I would say generally, obviously every school is going to be different, but the white ones is really just about the parties and which are the cool, whatever sororities or fraternities. At my school,
I feel like unfortunately I'm going to turn this not only to a race issue but a gender issue. I feel like men who are in fraternities tend to have a better chance of moving up into high positions of government and stuff like that than the females who are in sororities. Like sororities seem to be a place to go to be the party girl and to hang out with the frat life, but it's in the Greek life. But it's the men, it seems like the fraternities who become the leaders of your country and all that shit. And I don't know what that's about either. It's just a sexism thing that's throwback as well, kind of like the racist thing. Like
it's sexism and misogyny.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So there's definitely that dynamic in the frat sorority system. And like basically for the fraternities, like this is basically their blank check to the next 50 years of their life. Like this is like where these are where unless they like if they didn't go to a private school or some like fancy private school, like if they like are kind of just starting off in undergrad, like this is where all the critical relationships and bonds will be made because like typically go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna take a risk of making a sexist comment, but it's not supposed to be sexist. Again, if you go along the lines that the females in the sororities don't necessarily move up to become governors and senators and whatever, but it does seem to be where you pair up with the men who are on the up and coming, right? So if you're in the sorority life, you get paired up with men in the Greek system who are going to be the next governor or senator or whatever. And so it's almost like it's being paired
pipeline.
Up with Yes. Right.
And of course, like the dynamic with fraternities and sororities, it's a microcosm of the broader US. Like a specific group. So all the, gender things and, that go on with the broader population, those things are within the frat and sororities. But I think it's like, It like with the historically white ones, since it's really like it's temporary for them and it's like a stepping stone for like their future career and everything, um like it really is like the the hazing is like really bad.
Oh
I want to
yeah,
ask.
Yeah.
I want to
definitely.
ask one more question to you. I want
Yeah.
to ask one more question, and I got sausage biscuits as queued up backstage. Fuck it, we're gonna have a full panel here tonight. But, so I'm gonna bring sausage biscuits, and I'm gonna step off camera for just a second. But I want to ask you this question: how much money did you see floating around in the Greek life? Because one of the things that seems is like some of these students carry obscene amounts of cash around, and they're like tasked with things like, you know, setting up the next party that's going to happen, and they've got $1,000 on them. Did you see a lot of money flowing through the Greek system when you were in the sororities?
Yeah, so again, this is for the historically white ones because the historically black ones function differently. But all the fraternity and sororities, they have an executive board. So president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and then depending on what their platform is, they might have specific like leads of certain things. But everyone is always going to have president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. So for the white ones, again, this is going to be different at different schools, but at my school, I don't know the exact number, but I knew the dues per semesters was thousands of dollars. And
For the
so that's
for the
gonna,
dues, for each person's dues,
yeah,
dues was see that, and that's and you I'm so glad that you came on, because that's the thing. You need to be from a money family to even be in there, because there's dues that cost a lot of money.
Well, that was one of the
family has to have a certain amount of affluence just to be in that system.
That was one of the reasons given. I heard that why the girls quit the sororities, because of issues within the dues and how much they were being charged, and when they were being charged when they weren't there, all sorts of crazy stuff like that. So yeah,
right,
so
because they were expected to pay dues even though they weren't even living there. They still had to pay dues just to be in the sorority.
So that's how it works. It's different amounts. So if you don't live in the house, then your dues are lower. But if you do live in the house, then your dues are higher because you're including room and board into that. But for everyone, there's like thousands of dollars per semester.
About that. And real quick, Sausage Biscuits joined us on screen. About that, there was a discussion I can't remember the details, but there was a discussion in Howard Bloom's When the Night Comes Falling, when I think it was Kaylee or Maddie was having problems about them being charged money as if they were living in the fraternity when they were off campus, because just like you said, like they have dues to pay, and the dues change whether you're in the frat house or the sorority house or whether you're off campus, and they were getting charged like they were living in the frat house or on campus when they were working from home during COVID, for example. There was a whole discussion about that.
Yeah, because the treasurer is another student. Like the treasurer isn't like an adult with like accounting experience.
Right.
The treasurer is like the senior who's maybe like drunk half the time. Like you don't know.
Well, also, can you all hear me?
Hey, yeah, we hear you.
Also, when I was in a sorority, granted it was in the early 90s, it was mandatory at some point that you lived in the house. So if COVID was going on, I'm wondering if they charged them as though it was mandatory for them to be in the house.
I think that was what the deal was at that point. From what I understand, Robin, isn't that how that when we were talking about that once before, by the way, welcome, Sausage.
Thank you.
I think that was what it was that they were, because of COVID, they were all living separately per se, except for a few of them, I think. And they were still being charged, and they argued about it, and they were still, they were told, deal with it. So they
it's
quit.
in the bylaws.
Yeah, because
that's what they would tell them.
Being charged the same exact amount.
Yep. That's how I understood that too. So
Now,
that would make sense.
I actually left the sorority after the freshman year because I did not want to live in the house.
Right.
The rules for the girls were very different than the rules for the boys. And it had so much oversight. It almost felt like you were going back home to live with your parents in a way. Yeah. And I had already made the friends. My brother was in a fraternity, so I knew guys. And I had kind of told him up front I was going to be a horrible member in the sense of like, I'm not here to do anything but
Yeah.
be invited to parties. I'm sorry, but I just told him up front. And so it wasn't surprising when I quit. So nobody was really mad at me. There was no animosity. Nobody really cared.
And like the sororities, like for instance, and you guys can both probably attest to this. Like from my understanding, like the sorority houses and the girls sororities and all that, there's no drinking in the sorority houses as compared to the fraternity houses where nothing but drinking and stuff like that, right?
Exactly. But the
That's
other
what
thing
my
that
buddy
became a problem is that you, as freshmen and pledges, you would have girls that lived in the house or had lived in the house and were juniors or seniors, and you would see them out partying and doing all kinds of wild, crazy shit. And then you would show up at a meeting and they would call you out because they saw you drinking out of a bottle in public and your beer was supposed to be in a cup. And you're like, wait a minute. And you're not, you were not supposed to be staying over. If you were caught sleeping over at a frat house, that was a no-no. But you could know that a girl went into a bathroom and did something explicit at a bar, but then they would call you out because you stayed at your boyfriend's frat house. And so a lot of girls would drop out because they got tired of the hypocrisy. And they were just like, man, what am I paying you to be stand over me and be a hypocrite? I'm cool. I'm out. I'm keeping my money.
No, and that came out in Howard Bloom's When the Night Comes Falling too. The girls were having problems with the hypocrisy and the double standards and I wanted to show something. Amanda from our show provided us a link backstage. Check this out, just for shits and giggles. This is me struggling with the fucking the controls. University of Idaho's chapter financial transparency issues from 2024. Look at this. Alpha Gamma Delta's charges for the year $5,880 for fall members. The new member fee of $75, an initiation fee of $2. Look, you have to be from a certain social standard in life to be able to afford to fucking be in these houses. College itself is expensive, but look at how much it costs to be in these different houses. Alpha fee, $5,461. Delta is a little cheaper, but
10
look,
grand.
Right, 10 grand for total new. Look, and so when you talk about certain houses being prestigious, the more prestigious your house is, the more expensive it's going to be to part of that system. And family, look at that, 10,500 for that one.
You know what?
5 Delta,
that's just the fees itself. I ran a video about 3 years ago of one of the sorority houses on campus on Idaho's campus. Lee, they had these girls packed like no lie, literally like sardines, all the way up through the attic. Okay. The upper classmen, I guess you could call it, they could get their own rooms and they would maybe double up on a room. But then they had all these freshman girls like packed in the attic in these bunk beds stacked on top of each other. And they were charging each one of those girls like $600 a month to live in this house. Insane. It was just to live in the house. And they had nothing but a little bed or like a bunk bed. That was it.
And it was like the interview with Van Leuven and Kelvin Cobley or whatever his name was. They were interviewing him, and he was talking about how I have a room on the first floor and the bottom, whatever. And the guy was like, yeah, I got kind of a cushy thing. Like they're like, wow, you got that room, because where you are inside the house also is a privilege. There's good rooms, and then there's shit rooms. So
I mean, I'm telling you guys,
order system.
Yeah,
the girls' houses were typically very nice, very well kept, and very clean, and the boys' houses were a pigsty, filthy, and disgusting.
That's probably par for the course.
But like that video, I'm still shocked. There was probably it was a big house. Don't get me wrong. It was huge, but the attic had probably 35 beds in it. Okay. In that attic area, which was a huge fire hazard. There was no exits up there. They're not even supposed to be up there doing that. When I showed this video, I was like, oh my God, if something were to break out, these girls are all going to die.
What you're describing to me, Dago, sounds like Rush Week, when they have every member of the sorority staying in the house. But typically for me in the 90s, when you lived in the house, every girl had a room. Yes, there were bunk beds in it, but you weren't stacked in like sardines. Like the girls' rooms were really, really nice. So I don't know. Maybe that was a newer house or something. It could have been, something new, but what you're describing to me sounds like Rush Week, when they have every girl in the sorority staying in that house to, go through all the girls coming through pledge week.
When you lived in the house, like when you were that year, you said you lived there, did you have to pay Yeah, it was in February, so I don't think it was rushed for that one. But did you have to pay just a fee to live in the house on top of your other regular fees that you paid to be in it?
I never lived in the house. I left. I was like,
Oh,
I don't
okay.
need another, I left my parents' house. I don't need that oversight. But you pay, it was
Yeah.
just when you paid your dues that year, it was a different amount. You paid a separate fee to live in the house because
Right.
you're also paying for the food because you have a house mom and they cook
Yes.
all your meals for you. So that's a separate one. But then in addition to your basic fees that you all are able to pull up online, if you fail to show up to anything that they have deemed mandatory, whether it's a philanthropic event or
Yeah.
anything else that they have just labeled mandatory. If you can't make it for whatever reason, there's a fine associated with it. Like I think my fine back in the day was $50 or like $100 per event that you missed.
Wow.
And I was fortunate enough to have a parent that could give me
Sure.
ridiculous money. And so if I had friends in my pledge class that couldn't afford it, we would get together and laugh hysterically. And I'd just be like, girls, I'm paying your fine. I don't care. We're not going to that stupid event.
Yeah.
And we would go up after the meeting and just tell them beforehand, we're not going to be there. What's it going to cost? And I would write the check and we would laugh and leave.
So I want to ask a question. I feel bad for, Jody and those who haven't talked for the longest time, but I do. I want to take them. Okay, good. Stay with us. So I really want to ask a question about, and I'm crude and I'm vulgar, and so pardon my French, but during rush week, there's this perception of whose dick do I have to suck to get into this fucking Greek system? Like what happens?
God.
What happens during rush? What happens
girls?
during rush that
girls?
that men and women have to do to go through to try to get their way into a house?
Well, I think, like you said, Lee, a lot of it is that before you even show up and they see your face, you have submitted an application, and it's somebody's job to look up who your parents are. Are they going to be able to donate money? Or, who do they have connections? What good can they do for the image of that sorority? Yep. So you have been pre-filtered before you show up. And how much money
who you blow.
They sure as hell want to know how much money your mama and daddy make, whether they want to admit it or not. But for the girls, you get dressed up. The one thing that was weird is when you go from house to house, they're all greeting you with this over excitement, and you go in the house and you sit in a chair and they all kneel in front of you. And then there's a bell that rings, and then they shit like speed dating. And then the next member moves over one and they sit in front of you. And so in each house, you're being asked these questions over and over and over. And then you leave that house and you go to a next one and you do the same thing. So, by your fifth or sixth house on the first week, you may forget what you have answered, and you start repeating yourself and you get lost in it. And, it's exhausting, to be honest.
How competitive is it? Like, is it like, do people fight and try to backstab each other to try to make that your competitor look like shit so you have a better chance of getting in a house? Like how competitive does rush week happen?
Well, for me, what I noticed is that if you had any leftover high school animosity, like if you and a girl liked the same guy and she was a year older than you and she was already in a house, you would see a girl not get invited back during the course of the week because somebody had beef with her in that house. So you're not getting in. You know what I mean? I did not personally witness anything like you would see in maybe like a beauty pageant kind of backstage fighting. I didn't see anything like that, but I do know once you got into the sorority, they like to paint a picture that everybody is, sisters, but the girls would section off into their own little cliques, and they could become mean and catty towards each other within the house after they're already in.
Did you go through all that same stuff, Kawanda, if I can ask too, within your sorority? I know you were saying that they're kind of different in some ways, but did you go through that same kind of stuff with yours too?
She's muted right now.
She might not be right there.
Yeah.
No worries. I'm just curious to see what the differences were between.
It's funny.
Now, I had a friend.
Can y'all hear me?
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
You were muted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, no.
No.
No, it's not like that. And honestly, in most, I don't know every school, but most historically Black fraternities and sororities don't have houses. That's not like the house culture really isn't a thing.
Got you. So
okay.
it's big difference. I see. Yeah, and I have a friend that was in a fraternity and he told me that like to this day he still goes to fraternity meetings or something like that, and it's like he's my age. You know what I mean? He's a police officer too, and yeah, 100%. He was I think he was a Delta, to be honest with you. But all of that stuff, he says that he signs it when you sign up and you get part of it. It's for life. Like it's till death do his part is the way he put it, and that he'll always be there. The whole thing is, if your fraternity brother calls you, you haven't seen him in 35 years, you're supposed to be there for him no matter what, within reason, whatever it is. And it's
Right.
like, it reminds me of as we've said before, the skulls. And it seems like the sorority culture was a little different than what the fraternity culture is, obviously, in those ways. So it's very interesting for sure.
I think the sorority culture is different than the fraternity. I know it was from what I witnessed of my brothers.
Yeah.
It was very different. And like the women didn't haze each other. They gave each other gifts. I remember like they came over and decorated my dorm
Yeah.
room door, and you'd always have something waiting for you when you got home from class. And the boys were mean as hell to each other, like
It's
they had
funny.
hell week.
It's funny
Yeah.
you say that because again, I'm gonna put myself out there to be a fucking sexist asshole, which I don't think I am. But I have found that I'm surprised by that because it seems like women have a reputation for being a little bit more catty and competitive with each other and backstabbing each other. So it's weird to hear that the guys were the more likely to be shitty to each other than the girls, because it seems like I would have expected that sororities to be a little bit more, I guess, infighting than the men. But
I mean,
Well,
the
it's
best
probably
analogy I could give it was like watching a bunch of men compete to be a Navy SEAL, and they wanted
Yeah.
to see who was the biggest, baddest,
Right.
strongest MFer that could take the most shit. So they all
Yeah.
piled it on each other. And then once they survived it, then their mentality was, well, then you have to go through it too if you want to be in
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah. No, I get
Like
that.
the
I get that.
pinning, like when they shoved the pin in their chest. And it was almost like that. Like the men just beat up on each other just to prove they could take it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked my friend because I watched in a movie about, okay, so you know how the guys they have the chains and they'll wear their letters and stuff like that. The thing is that they give them to their girlfriend or a girl they're dating or something, that you're not supposed to do that, because I saw this in a movie. And he said that kind of stuff is real, that stuff goes on, that if he gives his letter, his Greek letters, whatever, however he wears them or whatever it is, to a
Hello?
girl or a girl's girlfriend, that he gets his ass beat, I
Hello?
guess. Hello?
Hello.
Bueller.
So
Did somebody have an open mic and had something happen on the Do we need to shut Jody down? Was that Jody?
that was Jody, yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, that was something he said, that they actually he's like, they would do that and they would beat the hell out of each other over stuff like that. Do you remember seeing and hearing things like that go on when you were there?
From my understanding, the only time a dude gave his letters to a girl is like when he got engaged. It was part of like where that was
Right.
when that was appropriate, and no other time. But I
Right.
didn't witness anybody having any beef or any guys giving their I did know that it was a big deal that you weren't really supposed to wear letters if you were not in that fraternity or
Yeah.
sorority. Like if you found a sweatshirt at a Goodwill, you weren't supposed to be sporting it.
No.
But girls would typically wear like a sweatshirt or something sporting the letters of the fraternity that their boyfriend was in, and that wasn't a big deal.
Right.
Here's a good question.
This is good,
Typically,
yeah.
Monique, did you see drugs running through the sorority, or?
I mean, for the most part, you always saw it out and about. It wasn't like one house was supplying it. It was just kind of like if you're out at a bar, you knew certain people were going in the bathroom and having a little bump or something so they could drink more. But those kids usually stuck together to where that's why I kind of wondered at some point in time when they said Kaylee and Maddie took a break from each other, I wondered if one of them started kind of partying and maybe the other one wasn't.
Yeah.
Possibly, I don't know, but I didn't. And my brother was in a fraternity. I mean, I didn't really know of anybody specifically in his house who was a dealer or anything like that. I mean, the most experience I had was my brother warning me that a lot of the guys in the fraternity were just sleazy fuck boys, if I can be honest. I mean, like the first time I went to a fraternity party and said one of his brothers was cute, he was like, absolutely not. And then I'm like, well, what about him? And he's like, absolutely not. And then essentially like going through the whole house, and he's like, no one, not a single one of them, except the one guy you went to high school with, who's my little brother, and I know where his D has been. They're sleazy F boys, and absolutely not. Like, that was the biggest thing. My brother was protective for me, was not the drug so much. It was just that they were kind of predatory, gross F boys, and they would wait for you to get wasted and take advantage of you.
Right. And along that lines, when I was going to WSU, there was a rumor that a woman had been raped at a fraternity, and the brothers all hid it because it would fucking risk their house. Like their whole house could be in trouble.
I would believe that 100%.
They would all cover for a rape that happened in their house to protect the house.
Yeah. They would protect the house, but I think that they deal with it internally. Like they get mad at the
that
kid,
person
but
maybe got his ass
gonna
kicked
turn
for
him
it.
in. Yes.
I saw that happen in person at OSU, because I've said this before. I didn't go to college. I went to the Ohio Fire Academy, but I would party at OSU after high school because all my friends went to Ohio State. Okay, and we'd go up there on the weekends, and I literally was at a fraternity party with friends and watched something like that happen, and everybody just turned their heads and went the other direction. I'm like, and he was like, "Shut up, dude. It's not your business. Stay out of it. Move along." And I left after that. I was like, "Wow, you've got to be kidding me."
Look, and I don't want to go crazy on this, but along the lines of the brothers won't turn, like they're going to cover up a rape or some kind of indiscretion, but they might deal with it in house. Same kind of question happens. Could that happen in Greek life when somebody does something and they deal with it? Maybe some people get murdered from something that happened. From what I was like, we're not going to let it happen, not going to spill onto the house, but we'll take care of that shit internally.
From what I witnessed, if somebody is really out of control, they just kick you out, and it's called blackballed. You're blackballed. Your name is shit. Right. It would be like if you're blacklisted in Hollywood. They don't murder you. They just blackball you. Now,
that would be extreme to murder somebody.
At the University of Kentucky, when Trent, I can't ever pronounce his last name correctly, but he was gunned down because the individual was kicked out and blackballed, and he blamed this one kid, and he waited patiently and waited for him to be sitting outside at a party on a front porch and sniped him down. But he had been kicked out, and he held a grudge over it. I don't, from my experience of witnessing that, the problem I have with the scenario of the Sigma Chi's turning on Ethan is that his brother is also in that same fraternity.
Yes.
And you're talking about the entire house agreeing to this act, and the entire house agreeing to killing 4 girls, and everyone keeping their mouth shut. I don't see a scenario where that's likely to occur.
That's been my issue too, with the keeping the mouth shut thing has always bothered me.
It just doesn't seem, maybe 3 or 4 of them split off. Like you have 3 separate lunatics that decide to take it upon themselves. They keep their mouth shut. Maybe a sect of a different fraternity, maybe the Delt House felt betrayed because they were also dealing, and they were dealing out of the 112 house, and a sect of a separate fraternity would keep their mouth shut. But I don't think you would get an entire house to agree to kill 3 girls and 1 guy.
And for the record,
it just doesn't seem likely to me. And it doesn't seem likely to me that I just keep going back to the fact that whatever went down, there was some sort of federal investigation that has the capability to keep a FOIA request from being fulfilled under the terms of national security. So it's not just some moronic frat boy that lost his mind one night and went up the street and, killed a house full of kids. Something else larger is going on.
I'll tell you, sorry, Diego.
I was just going to say, I have 2 things, actually. I wanted to ask you a question, but real quick, if it did happen with the Sigma Chi guys, I don't think it was the whole house. I think it may have been a couple people that went rogue and did it on their own without telling anybody else about it, which is very hard to do, I understand, but that's what my thought always was with them, like 2 or 3 guys that didn't say a word to anybody, and they did this on their own for their own personal reasons. But the question I wanted to ask either one of you or both of you that are up here, real quick, and then I'll be quiet, I promise. Do you know, ladies, if there's a way to look into figuring out or finding out why a sorority was put on probation at what point and what the reason was, or is there a way to look into that?
It up. I actually looked it up today. I was trying to find out who was who's big and who was who's little, and it actually popped up on a Fox News article that those two sororities were put on probation. I thought I screenshot it for something that had to do with drugs, alcohol. Hold on, I did screenshot it. Fox News reported on it in December of 2022. Let me see. I thought I screenshotted it.
Okay.
I don't know if it's public information, but they did report on it. And
so when you would look it up, how would you look it up and where? Just Google it? Is that what you would do?
Let me see if I can find the picture. I know it was a Fox News article.
Yeah, wait, I have something to say.
Oh,
So,
go ahead.
yeah, so I don't know for every organization, this could probably be something to look in, but I know for specifically for my sorority, that is public information. Like they go each chapter, there's like a part of the website will go to each chapter, and if you've been expelled or anything like that, individual or whole chapters, it like listed on our website. Like it's kind of like shaming people
Did they
in a
give the
way.
details too, Kawanda? Like the details of the
Yeah.
situation?
Yeah, the last time I looked, it was like general, like it wasn't like a huge write up, but it was like
Yeah.
kind of like a short note. Yeah, so for my sorority, last time I looked, it did do that. I don't know if all organizations do that, but for us, it's like it's public. It's not something that they try to like hide.
Gotcha.
You know, if your chapter gets suspended or if you get expelled. So
Wasn't Dylan
Thank
talking
you.
about who Maddie was Bethany's big and Emily Allant was Dylan's. Wasn't Dylan out of the sorority at that time though? Hadn't she
No,
or she was still active?
still involved. Yeah, her and Bethany were both still in it.
Yeah, I thought they had gotten kicked out or dismissed or left or something like that voluntarily. But
no,
you need a password to get into the Pi Beta website. That's wild. That is crazy. Yeah, I think it was Kaylee and Maddie had left, and from my understanding, Xana was in the process of leaving, and Bethany and Dylan were still involved. From my understanding, that's how it was explained to me.
Gotcha.
Which is still, I really would like to know the absolute truth and details behind the reason why those three left or were leaving. Because I think there's more to it. I think there's more to it than just the dues thing, is my opinion.
And again,
I
agree. And I understand he's not.
Go ahead.
I understand he's not an authority, but Howard Bloom suggested that the girls the girls that were leaving the sororities were leaving because they were tired of the games and the hypocrisy and the fucking all the politics that went in being in a sorority. That's why they were leaving, supposedly.
What about the suspicious deaths?
It just seems weird. They all did it at the same time. You know what I mean? And they lived together, which is what got
the
me
suspicious deaths.
The suspicious deaths that was Ethan was like best friends with one of the guys, and that's one of the possible like
Lindau,
threads was that Kaylee was like because she was into true crime and maybe she stumbled upon something.
Right, and there was rumors that his death wasn't an accidental drowning or whatever, that it was a hazing incident that went wrong, and the fraternity was trying to cover it up because it would fucking shut the fraternity down if the hazing incident got somebody killed.
It was also brought.
Okay, Dago, I found it for you. It is a Fox News article published on November 30th, 2022, and updated November 30th, 2022, stating that Kaylee was a member of Alpha Phi, as Xana, Maddie were members of Pi Beta Phi. Of the 10 sororities on campus, Alpha Phi and Pi Beta Phi are the only two listed as on probation for health and safety reasons, which refers to, quote, violations or concerns regarding risk management, alcohol, drugs, or hazing, end quote.
Wow.
Interesting. Thank you for that. And I will
That's that. This is that article I think I found based on her information. University of Idaho victim sororities on probation for health and safety violations. This is from Fox 2022.
What?
2 sororities, which 3 of the sorry, go ahead. Did you want to cut
real quickly, just to add to what you were just saying? I had also been told that whole Hudson Lindau thing that Kaylee, Maddie, and Ethan were there that night, and that Jack Decor was the one that was feeding him alcohol.
Right, I heard that
they kept feeding him alcohol over and over and over again, getting him all messed up, which I think is very interesting. And I almost wonder, is that what may have caused Kaylee and Jack to possibly break up because she didn't like how that all went down, and it makes you wonder what she may have known. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that's quite
things that make
interesting.
you go,
We were also just told recently that he didn't wander out there and fall down in that place that he was found, that he was put there by law enforcement at some point. So there's no way to prove that. There's no way to say that. But
so real quick, I feel bad. All night long, Potty or whatever his name was or her name was has been trying to get backstage. I keep seeing them join, and then it says no devices connected. So then they disconnect and they join again. So sorry that you didn't get to make it. I know you've been making a valiant effort to be on the show tonight. So please make an effort again tomorrow night. See if we can work out the technical issues.
We appreciate you.
We are getting to the point of wrapping up as a group. So we've got 3 guests online. Let's give a chance for our guests to give a last second thought, whatever, and get them closed out one by one. And then we'll close out as a group and close this up for the night, because we usually go about 2 hours. So, Kawanda, if you're still there, you want to give us any kind of last parting question, thought, or whatever for us?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you. I have a final thought. And this final thought, it's not based on like any research or anything. Like I don't have a background in psychology or anything. This is just like me and my own thinking and posturing. But I think when it comes to the hazing situation, because obviously like hazing is a big problem everywhere and all of that. So I think like at the root of the hazing, obviously you have the obvious things of like humiliation and control and like power of the people who are doing the hazing, but then I also think psychologically they're intentionally creating trauma bonds. Because if you think about any relationship, like if you have a partner where everything was going great, like it doesn't test your relationship. But if you had a partner where like one of you gets sick or blah, 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 and then so you can see how they will react in that situation. So I think the like psychology of like being trauma bonded with each other is a huge part of the hazing. And then also it's like, because it's, it's the starting point for all your future connections and everything like that.
Sure. I agree. Yeah. It creates a bond. It creates a trust factor.
Yeah.
Can you go through the shit and then handle it and all this? Yeah, I agree with that.
Great statement.
But thank you, Kawanda, for coming on the show. I'm going to go ahead and dismiss you and let you go. Thank you so much. Please come again. It was enjoyable having you on the show. Thank you. All right. How about U.S. Claire? Do you got any final thoughts, questions before you head out?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a thought. I know I'm sure you guys don't want to get into this with like the whole Brent thing, but like him, I'm a veteran. I got out of the service last summer, so in a way, like I kind of feel his.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. But it's like I do feel the pain of his passing and what has happened to him, but also at the same time, like him, I'm sure like what he did. Like I raised my right hand and signed the dotted line right out as a teenager, cool. And so seeing what's happened to Brian and him basically like not like having his constitutional rights like given to him kind of ticks me off, because like Brent and I both served our country for us to have these constitutional rights and our freedoms.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like I'm sure there are so many other people that have been in Brian's situation. I've served to give everybody in this live, whether you're on the panel or in the chat right now watching this, and also even like in the prison system or in jail like Brian, like the rights to, do like have like their due process and all that, and kind of and seeing Brian get basically stomped all over and in the court system and also in the media really ticks me off so much, because it's just like,
Yeah.
if I don't,
Absolutely.
if I am serving this country and I see somebody that, like, I see it, like, from what I've heard about Brian, I see a lot of myself in Brian. So it's just like, if I do not, I'm very passionate about this. So it's just like, if I see somebody not have their rights when they deserve it, then like I'm kind of, it
It's
gets me
very
really riled up
upsetting.
to think about it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my only thought, and I will get out of here and I'll watch the rest of the live.
All right,
Thank
thank you, thank you, US Claire, and I want to say, like, it has been a difficult thing for me with Brent Kopacka. There's a part of me with Brent Kopacka in particular that feels like it's a shame to even potentially connect him to the Idaho 4 situation, because he served our country. He got a Purple Heart. Everybody speaks highly of the guy as being a really good, upstanding guy. To suggest that he was capable of something horrific is hard, right? But the
Very
same
much so.
token, but the same, and I totally get that. Like, I feel fucking horrible for questioning the man's integrity, because he seems like a pretty good guy. Having said that, I can't put to bed certain things that have been out there from the beginning that just simply can't be dismissed. So I'm in a pickle with Brent Kopacka in particular, because when I say this, I mean it. I want nothing more than to clear that man's name. I want nothing more than to clear it. I just can't yet. And so I want to, because I want to believe that he has every bit of respect coming to him for serving his country, and he got the shaft, and they drove him into a situation that got him killed, and I feel the sympathy towards that. But I'm not 100% convinced that has no part in the situation. And so until I can get there, I ride that difficult thing of being respectful to a soldier, but also like not dismissing it just because he was a soldier.
I've been there, and I still feel, with him at least, this is why I've pretty much been with that for years now, that it's his involvement, in my opinion, the way I see it at least, is probably only the fact that they were going to try to make him that person. I think they were looking at him as fall guy number one, basically, like Johanna.
He was the obvious patsy. He was the obvious patsy.
Yeah.
A guy with PTSD who had the capability of doing something like that, and he was an obvious patsy. Does that mean that he was just simply that? He was a patsy and he had nothing to do with it, and they just fucked an innocent man? Or is it possible he was involved? I don't know. I really just want to clear that shit up. I really do. At the end of the day,
I have a question. Did I imagine this, or did Pav do a video where he uncovered that very morning they had served Kopacka with a search warrant, taken a sheath, the sheath cover, or the knife and the sheath, they had taken it, done test on it, returned it, and they left notice somewhere visible for him in his apartment to let him know that this search warrant had been served that very morning? Which I was thinking, well, if that's the case, and you have someone who's a paranoid schizophrenic, of course you've sent him over the edge, before this whole incident starts with the roommates. If that's what happened that very morning, and he came home to a notice on his counter in his kitchen that a search warrant had been served on him, that might set him off.
I believe, Sausage, Brent Kopacka was aware that he was on the radar as being involved with the Idaho 4 murders. And so if he wasn't involved in it, I could imagine Brent Kopacka was fucking pissed off that they were going to try to pin that on him. And so I would imagine that would agitate him. And I imagine that would be some of the reasons why he said, I fucking hate you guys. During the standoff, he's like, I fucking hate you guys. I can understand that, because if he thinks he's being pinned on something he didn't do, he would be livid. As to whether or not there was a search warrant for a knife sheath. That gets sketchy to me. You may not be imagining it that Pavarotti said it. I would love to find the video and watch it myself to see his receipts.
Same
but
here.
What I do know is a search warrant was obviously obtained for his apartment during the standoff. And I feel like some people have conflated the search warrant with that event. But if there was a search warrant before that event, I don't know. So I would love to.
And they did, and they did find a knife in like the sewer near the place.
Right.
But again, that was after, you know.
And I still think that there's something to that stuff too, because was it 2 weeks or a month before there was an incident with him and PD when he's at this hotel when he's flipping out about this stuff, saying that somebody's after him or trying to do something to him, and it started
his girlfriend's brother or something like that was got to kill him.
I gotta wonder if that was the case. This is why I've always thought that he was supposed to be fall guy number one, in my opinion, is all I'm saying. So,
and like I said, the part that I hate to say it, the part they struggle with is, was he the patsy and he had nothing to do with it, or did they suspect him for good reason because he did have something to do with it? That's the $1 million question.
It's hard.
And again, there's evidence to suggest both, that he was simply being looked at and he had nothing to do with it, and there's evidence to suggest that he did. And I don't know, fucking a year into deep research, and I still can't get the answer to that, unfortunately. Sausage, do you have any last question before we dismiss you off camera tonight?
No, I do not. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much.
Very interesting show.
All right, panel, let's go around the horn. Let's go Dago, 1-1, Robin, and then myself for close. Dago, what do you got for closing thoughts tonight?
Very interesting show tonight. Very interesting combo. I want to thank Kawanda and Sausage very much for giving us your insight into your past and the things you've been involved in. Is very interesting and very much appreciated. Thank you, Jody, for jumping up here with us as well. Was there somebody else up there? Was it just those three? I think it was just
US Claire.
And you missed Claire. Yeah, US Claire. Thank you for your input as well.
Jody from Defense Rest.
Right. Thank you all very much. Appreciated. It was a great conversation, as it always ends up being, but this one was definitely, I didn't expect this tonight. So thank you very much. Again, thank you to Lee, 1-1, Robin, for having me. It's always an honor to be here, to be able to do this. Thank you to all of the moderators. You guys are amazing, as always. Again, none of us would be here without you to be able to do the things we do. So thank you all very much. And thank you to Miss Rhonda, who's in the background as well. We appreciate you, as always, for everything you do as well. Thank you to my production manager, my videographer, for the things they do. And every one of you guys, thank you so much for being here to support us tonight. And every time that you are here to support us, it is so very much appreciated. Guys, don't forget to love yourselves, love each other, and don't change a thing, because you truly are the beautiful people. Have a wonderful night.
The beautiful people. The beautiful people. All right, 1-1. What do you got for close tonight?
Amazing discussion tonight. I almost want to push Lee to do a separate long form video on like fraternities and sororities and stuff.
Oh, I know. I'm excited. We need to get an expert.
Yeah, it's super interesting, and it's like a side topic, but is it a side topic? That's like, we kind of, so our side topic tonight, we weren't just focused on Idaho 4, but the fraternity and sororities are like so intertwined in everything. So, it's come up a bunch of times, does the fraternity, whichever one, do they really run the town there? Like everyone keeps saying, oh, the college, the college runs the town, but like maybe the college runs the town, but are the people high up, are they, is it really the fraternity behind the college? It's like
right.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Then,
sure.
That could be. It could be. And
right.
It's just amazing
and
to me.
From your perspective, when you got law enforcement that are former fraternity members, how does that factor into the interrogation of brothers in the fraternity?
Right. How is that not a conflict of interest? I mean, do we? I know there's so many different. Do we know about Hitler? Is he part of the fraternity?
Right.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I've heard that he was.
Yeah, I mean that's ridiculous. Like, how is that not bias?
Yeah. Yeah.
great stuff.
Yeah, well, thank you for I mean, I would love to do a show on Greek life. The only problem that I have is having not been in Greek life. I feel like I'm not adequate to lead that discussion, but I'd like to talk about it. But do you have movie trivia for tonight?
Yeah, I do. And I was actually messaging. I was asking my wife questions.
Because you said she was in a sorority, right?
She's like, well, some things I can't tell you. I'm like, what the?
I'd have to kill you.
I'm like, what is this crap? Yeah. But great show. Thanks everyone for coming, and we love all of you that come up and give your questions and feedback. It was great having all the guests on, and we love the engagement with you guys. So it's we do research in all these different things, but we love learning stuff from you as well. So it's great stuff. All right, here we go. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready. I was born ready, son.
I should give a handicap to Amanda, but all right. So this was in the mid. This is above. This was after 2010. So there's your little hint. This is not. You should get it pretty quick. It's not. This is not like a super difficult one. You might not get it from the first line, but all right, here we go. Everything is unprecedented until it happens for the first time. Welcome on board U.S. Airways Flight 1549, with service to Charlotte. Please review the safety instruction card in the seat back pocket in front of you. It explains the safety features of this aircraft, as well as the location and operation of the exit and flotation devices. You were looking for a human error.
Wow. Nope. Airplane?
No.
She said airplane.
Nope.
It's not airplane. Nope.
After 2010.
This is the captain. Brace for impact.
Miracle on the Hudson?
Wait a minute.
No, it's not airplane.
Is it a drama or a comedy?
Yeah.
Or horror.
Or horror.
Jenny.
Snakes on a plane.
Snakes on a plane? Are you serious?
Oh no, not them mother effing snakes on that mother effing plane.
Motherfucking snakes on a plane.
No, Amanda got it. No. Amanda actually, I thought E-Potty got it first, but Amanda actually got it first.
Sully. That's the one I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
Sully. But it's not, is it Sully?
But I got it.
Yeah, it's Sully.
Sully. And who's
Tom Hanks
on a plane?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say somebody said a movie name that was like the something on the Hudson. Wasn't that the same event?
Sully that's what that is.
Yeah. That's the event, but the name is Sully.
It's Sully. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for that. Let's get Robin's thoughts, and I'll close this out, and we will put a fork in this son bitch. Robin, you're a full screen right now, talking to somebody off screen.
Okay, sorry guys.
we're like you're all like, wow, motherfucker.
Yeah, we were talking about the movie trivia. See what happens. Anyway, thank you guys so much for coming up with us tonight. You know, one is absolutely correct. We love the engagement and hanging out with you guys. Your wealth of knowledge tonight really opened my eyes to a lot of things regarding the Greek life, because I was not in a sorority when I went to college. So I don't know how all that works, but that was a lot of great information. So thank you guys for, and also to Jody from the Defense Rest for coming up and hanging out. And just a great panel discussion. So please, anytime you see the link like that, and if we have people start stacking up, we'll try to cycle you through so that you have a chance. But this was absolutely phenomenal. So, and thanks to all the mods on both channels. And just the chat engagement tonight was off the hook on both sides. So thank you one and all. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful night.
Thank you very much. And for some reason, your camera was freezing like every 2 seconds, which was like crazy. But your voice never broke up, but your face did a whole bunch of freezes, which was fantastic. It was a great moment. But your voice never wavered. So thank you very much.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Thank you for coming to another Crimes After Dark. I hope you enjoyed the discussion tonight. It was fantastic having guests on. I hope we can get you to encourage you to come onto the show more often. Guests really help out when you engage our panel. A great having sorority and fraternity. Actually, it was mostly just sorority tonight. Come on screen and share your experiences of Greek life. So thank you so much for that. Jody from the Defense Rest. She's more of a Letcher County, Kentucky kind of girl. And so I feel bad for Jody that she didn't get to get into her wheelhouse tonight. Hopefully, I know she will. Forgive me for that. She knows how it goes. So the case may be, but I wish that she had more time. Thank you all for coming tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Have a great night, everyone. Take it easy.
Good night.
Good night.